Hello, I'm John McBride. Welcome back to part two of our talk about the Edo period publisher, Tsutaya Juzaburo. Now, at the end of part one, we were looking at two titles that were authored by Tsutaya Juzaburo, Tsutaju. The second title we're looking at is called the Shintai Kaicho Ryaku Engi. My translation is the story behind the unveiling of the sacred image. Again, we see Tsutaju's pen name emblazoned on the final page, Tsutano Karamaru, his Kyoka pen name. It was published when he was 48, near the end of his life, and the illustrations were by the famous Kitao Shigemasa. The work is considered representative of Tsutaju's later years. It uses the Buddhist ritual of kaicho, which is the ceremonial public display of a sacred statue or image, as its central theme. It satirically portrays religious beliefs and miracles associated with such events. The anecdotes and mysterious tales surrounding the opening of Buddhist statues are presented with humour, reflecting the popular faith and customs of the time. The delicate and detailed illustrations by Kitao Shigemasa bring the narrative to life, making the book visually enjoyable as well. I'll leave you to read my translation of this page. What it's doing is turning the Buddhist sutra, the Heart Sutra, the most important sutra, I'd argue, into a humorous version. Again, we see seasonal festivities used as backdrops for mishaps. Anyway, it's very humorous. Yes, the ankoro, do not drink sake. You know, the sake is the root of all evil. Yes, Solwaka comes from the Heart Sutra. So it's when you know the sutra itself, it's very, very humorous. Anyway, enjoy. Edo saw an explosion in the popularity of Kyoka poetry during the Tenmei period, beginning in 1781. Kyoka is a traditional form of Japanese poetry that includes wordplay and satire, and the group that stood at the heart of the genre was known as the Yoshiwara Ren. Tsutaju used his own talents to ride the wave of Kyoka popularity, joining the Yoshiwara Ren under the poetic pseudonym Tsutano Karamaru, and interacting with some of the leading cultural figures of his day. Now in his 30s, Tsutaju saw the untapped potential and demand for the latest in Kyoka works, composed in Yoshiwara and written by the leading poets of his time. He immediately got to work. This kibyoshi, titled Yoshiwara Daitsuu, illustrated and written by Koikawa Harumachi, gives us a glimpse of the extent of Tsutaju's network of Kyoka poets. It includes depictions of 11 of the most famous poets of the day in fancy dress. We can see Tsutaju in the left foreground, inkstone box and ledger in hand, a wide smile on his face as he says, let's all write a fun Kyoka and make them all into a book. So he's always thinking of new ways of publishing and making money. This is Hoseido Kisanji under the name Tegara no Okamochi. His passage states, I'll read it out in full. Delighting in the season's first snowfall, I thought to compose some Kyoka and asked the Tengu to help by the power of the heavens to bring a group of people of the day worthy of the name of Edo's greatest Kyoka masters, who normally gather at the Daimonjiya, to come over to the Kikubaya, the tea house. Daimonjiya's master was Kabocha Motonari, a poet as well. Well, well, how amusing. Let us abandon the old-fashioned haikai poetry to the Western Sea. Now, abandoning something to the Western Sea meant yakuyoke, or a cleansing of evil. He goes on, I have no interest in that old poetry. So the famous haiku poetry, haikai poetry, is thrown out with the bathwater. I just like fishing, he goes on. And so tekara okamochi is an appropriate name, meaning the person who has a bucket full of useful deeds, or in this case, fish. So that becomes his funny Kyoka pen name. And then he's got a little poem there. Who is spring? Who on earth is it? Ah, it's just Harumachi, or spring town. Of course, Koikawa Harumachi is the illustrator of the book. So fabulous illustrations. This is the famous Otanampo. He writes under the name Yomono Akara. He doesn't have a quotation for himself, but he's addressed by his neighbor, Motono Mokuami, who says, Akara-san, how fortunate for you that you have a funnel on your head, used for funneling sake, and a sake brewing apron. Because the author didn't give me anything quirky to hold on to, so I am just Motono Mokuami, which means nothing unusual about me. Akara was a famous brand of sake, by the way, and so on. Again, these were transcribed by the brilliant students at Cambridge Summer School in early modern Japanese paleography. And these translations are some of the first access in English that we have to these scripts. The author and illustrator, the great Koikawa Harumachi, appears in the top left-hand corner. Now, the story of Yoshiwara Daitsuu begins long, long ago in the capital near the willows of the Baba district. There lived a great connoisseur named Asobi Sanji. He was someone who disliked nothing and was known by the pen name Skinaru, which means one who likes things. The main character, Asobi Sanji, or Skinaru, is a parody of the author's friend, Hoseido Kisanji. The story unfolds from the episode, one day on the road to Shimabara, the courtesan district in Kyoto, he saw a child trying to kill a captured black kite, a tombi bird. So he gave the child money in exchange for the bird and released it. And from this event, the story develops further. Skinaru, though it was praiseworthy that he saved the life of the kite, the bird, he gave away all his earnings to the child. While he was alone chanting a kawato bushi, a style of narrative singing, an unfamiliar Daitsuu, or a connoisseur or worldly person, came to him at his hermitage called the Ugoan, or Rain After Hermitage. The tombi, or the black kite, temporarily takes the form of a heavenly being, or tensu, and leads Skinaru to Yoshiwara, in this case. And this is where, in Yoshiwara, a gathering of 11 Daitsuu connoisseurs is held. The Kyoka comedic poetry that was all the rage in Edo during the Meiwa era is, of course, featured. Now, Skinaru, aided by the supernatural powers of the Tengu, indulges to the fullest in the refined pleasures of this stylish world of Yoshiwara. Not Osaka's Dotonbori, not Kyoto's Shijo or Shimabara, but the rare and delightful pleasures of Yoshiwara in Edo, where people now dance with joy. And a beautiful bird's eye view of the Yoshiwara there. The lavish generosity of Skinaru and Tensu, the Tengu, is depicted here. We see them throwing coins at the courtesans and their staff. The Tengu is scolded for being so frivolous. And finally, our protagonist, Ginaru, realizes the evil ways of the world. He gives up his frivolous amusements and takes tea ceremony as his companion, aiming to live with benevolence and modesty. All right. This book is called Kyoka Shitariburi, a list of Edo poets, published in 1783, and we can find Staju's pseudonym, Stano Karumaru, written in the pages, dedicated to the Yoshiwara Ren, and right next to his is the name Fudeno Ayamaru, which is the pseudonym of Kitagawa Utamaro, who would go on to become one of Japan's greatest ukiyo-e painters through portrait works published by Staju. Fuden no Ayamaru means to make a mistake with your brush, painting brush, so it's a great name for this great artist. Staju put out many Kyoka books before finally starting to publish Kyoka ehon, which were illustrated poetry books with richly coloured prints based on paintings. The greatest of these works is the 3-volume illustrated Kyoka book, the Ehon Mushierami. Staju contracted a painter living at his house at the time to create the paintings for this trilogy, a painter named Kitagawa Utamaro. Ehon Mushierami was published at New Year's in 1788, and it was sort of a poetry contest in which the entrants competed to compose the best poem about insects. Some commentators, so, again, the Kyoka have double meaning. They're notoriously difficult to translate, but here I go. This one is about the bee, hachi, but it obviously is a wasp. But anyway, here's my poor attempt. Like a thief creeping toward a wasp's nest's hollow, I draw ever near, spellbound by her beauty, yet knowing the sting may follow. So they're all about love in the Yoshiwara district, insects and the love of the courtesans. They had one-track minds. A few more. Caterpillar blowing away the hair to search for a flaw, which is an old proverb. But then here I am crawling and clinging around you. Some stalking going on there by the caterpillar. Grasshopper, of course, it's about the song at night, night after night. You can almost hear the grasshopper's song. I let my heart's reins slip towards you. This poor girl, they're all stalkers, from their poetry at least. But you have to admit, some argue, it's perhaps one of the most beautiful books in the world. Anyway, I'll allow you to enjoy the images. Oh, this one is spectacular, using black mica as the background to portray night and, of course, a firefly. Drawing water from the Saho River, I am like a firefly, even if the closeness between us becomes a rotten tie like withered reeds, and you can see the beautiful firefly clinging to the reed. What does that mean? And so on. A truly beautiful book, and a way of displaying the poetry about the insects. Kyoka need a theme. So the following year, the theme is shellfish. So this is 1799. Staju published another book in that same vein. It's titled Shioi Not Sto. And this time the poems are about shellfish by the Kyoka group led by Akira Kanko. So the first image, the theme in that work was of shellfish gathering in tidal pools. And the final illustration features people playing a shell matching game. The illustrations are again by the amazing Kitagawa Utamaro. And I'll allow you to enjoy the illustrations at your leisure. I apologise, I can't remove my face from the illustration. But these books are readily available online for your pleasure, viewing pleasure. And there's the final illustration featuring people playing a poetry game involving shell matching. Another year on saw the publication of Momo Chidori Kyoka Awase, a contest for poems about birds. And like the book about insects before it, it included humorous verses about love. Because these books feature such luxurious illustrations, it can be assumed that they were funded by patrons. These books would have surely led to even more requests for such publications. Rather than focusing on the poems in this trilogy, Staju put the spotlight on the illustrations that demonstrated Utamaro's astonishing artistry, perhaps with the idea of even more formally establishing his own brand as he made the name Utamaro into a brand of its own. I'll allow you to enjoy the illustrations at your leisure. If anyone's interested in any of the poems in particular, send me a note and I'll attempt to translate them for you. So the Kansei era began in 1789, and Staju began delving into the field that remained the ultimate goal of a local bookseller like him, the world of ukiyo-e. We now address Staju's ukiyo-e marketing strategies and how they helped him discover such famous artists as Kitagawa Utamaro, Tōshūsai Sharaku, and Eishōsai Choki, and to maximize their appeal. Here we have an image of Utamaro by Eishi. This magnificent series is by Utamaro. A woman narrows her eyes as she stares off into the distance, hand on cheek, deep in thought. This work is titled Pensive Love. Her shaven eyebrows and other aspects of her appearance suggest that she is a mature married woman, and the whiteness of the skin under her sleeve lends her a seductive charm. Who is she thinking about right now? A sweet lover from the distant past, or a new object for her affections, an illicit liaison for whom she is now falling? In the ukiyo-e genre of bijin-ga, or images of beautiful women, artists generally made full-length portraits of their subjects. But Staju worked with Utamaro to develop this new style of close-up portrait known as okubiye. Utamaro spared no detail in his close-ups of beautiful women, capturing not only their feminine forms but also their expressions and gestures, thereby communicating the emotions they felt as well. This revolutionary artistic development captured the hearts of the people of Edo, and the series of 10 works that this masterpiece belonged to, called Selection of Love Poems, went on to become immensely popular. And I'll allow you to enjoy. This one's called Fukaku Shinobu Koi, or Deeply Hidden Love. She's blackened her teeth with ohaguro, which normally signifies a married woman, but she lacks the shaved eyebrows that would also signify her being married. So she's perhaps yet young and recently married. Her ornate kanzashi hairpin has a flower design on it, very beautiful. She looks down and holds a kiseru tobacco pipe in her right hand. She stares off, her shoulders raised, eyes narrowed, and her tiny lips pursed, as if in deep emotional mid-sigh. The title suggests the woman may be pondering a risky affair. Utamaro uses a limited number of colours in the print. The deep blacks of the protective collar around her kimono and her large rounded hairstyle draws the attention, contrasting with the white of the woman's face and the nape of her neck. As I've noted there, this set a record price in 2016 for a single ukiyo-e print, selling for €745,000. The woman in Mare ni au koi, or Love That Rarely Meets, she appears very young and sheltered. She is probably in her teens. She wears an ornate kushi kanzashi, comb-shaped hairpin, and bashfully sticks her fingers just barely from the sleeve of her kimono. The title refers not to a woman who rarely meets her lover, but to a shy young woman, inexperienced in love, and her expression is the most withdrawn in the series. Arawaruru koi, or Obvious Love, presents the most openly sensual print in the series. The plump, sensual woman seems to care little that her kimono is open, exposing a breast. Her hairdo is in disarray, the kanzashi hairpin at the front about to fall off, and she holds one of the hairpins in her left hand. She appears to be looking down outside the frame of the print, perhaps in mid-conversation. The term arawaruru koi refers to a love so wholehearted that it expresses itself in the subject's face and mannerisms. Now, here we have a shunga, an erotic print by Utamaro. A couple are lying in close embrace in the upstairs room of a restaurant, their legs entwined beneath the transparent gauze of his jacket, and her bare buttocks a shock of white against the bright scarlet under kimono. They hold each other with tender gestures, the man gazing intently into his lover's eyes. The fan he holds between them has been turned towards us to display the suggestive verse by the celebrated comedic poet Yadoya no Meshimori. The poem is Hamaguri ni hashi o shikka to hasamarete shigi tachikanuru aki no yugure. I translate this as, its beak caught firmly in the clamshell, the snipe cannot fly away of an autumn evening. Now, there's some famous poetry about snipes flying away from oiso, but he's caught in this clamshell. Perhaps he's the snipe. So this image comes from the album Poem of the Pillow. It's a masterpiece among erotic works by Utamaro and among the entire erotic oeuvre of the ukiyo-e school. It transcends the existing conventions of a genre which all too easily resorted to stereotypical scenes of lovemaking. The size of the figures is unusually large, and they are brought close to the picture plane and viewed from low angles. Stylistically and technically too, there is much innovation, a fine pale brown outline to the bodies in place of the normal black, and a variety of painterly brushstrokes used to depict the drapery. Poem of the Pillow comes at the start of a sequence of deluxe coloured printed books and albums designed by Utamaro and published by Tsutaya on the themes of birds, shells, snow, moon and flowers, which widen considerably the range of subject matter and styles in ukiyo-e. So a very famous moment in ukiyo-e history. Now, this is the first shunga, or erotic ukiyo-e, ever displayed at the Tokyo National Museum. So again, the lovers gently touch each other's faces and neck, and the man's eye can just be seen gazing at her as they kiss. The sophisticated modulation of the patterns on her robe give the sense of her beautifully curving body beneath. But I love the fact that this was the first ever shunga allowed in public at the museum. As I mentioned, he may be the snipe, but also perhaps the fisherman of the story, who was able to capture both the battling snipe and the clam. So intricately are the poem and picture intertwined that maybe Utamaro even got the idea for the picture in the verse, placing in the first place from reading the verse. The next step for Tsutaju and Utamaro was to begin creating nishikie, or brocade prints of women of Edo, following in the footsteps of Suzuki Harunobu, a bijin-ga artist from a generation before, who painted popular women from Edo. One of the most groundbreaking of the works they produced was 3 famous beauties, featuring 3 famous women from Edo. On the bottom is Ohisa, probably Ohisa, the daughter of the owner of a rice cracker shop called Takashimaya in Ryogoku. In the middle is Okita, the daughter of the owner of a tea house located near Sensoji, the Asakusa temple. And finally, at the top is Tomimoto Toyohina, a Yoshiwara geisha and master of a type of music called Tomimoto Bushi. Okita's kimono is inscribed with a paulownia crest, Ohisa's with a 3-leaved oak crest, and Toyohina's with a primrose crest. Utamaro also painted their eyebrows, eyes, noses, and facial contours to distinguish between the 3 women. This work differs from the more idealized bijin-ga of the past, in that the women were depicted in a more realistic, individualistic way. Utamaro's revolutionary 3 beauties works quickly became all the rage, spreading throughout Edo. Tsutaju took advantage of that popularity by not only publishing large, more expensive versions of the works, but also cheaper, smaller versions. Now, this is an incredible series, 12 hours in Yoshiwara. Depicts a single day in the red light district over 12 illustrations, each depicting a time 2 hours apart from the next. The series is thought to have been inspired by a sharebon, a comedic novel called Nishiki no Ura by Santo Kyoden, and it is one of Utamaro's best-known works of full-length bijin-ga. Now, seiro refers to the Yoshiwara. The term seiro originated in Chinese to denote a pavilion in which a nobleman kept a mistress. In Utamaro's time, it referred to Yoshiwara's most privileged pleasure houses. The title appears in a caption shaped as a Japanese clock in a corner of each print, up the top right-hand corner. Male visitors do not appear, leaving it to the purchasers of the prints to imagine themselves in the role of customer. So let's look at them in order. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, the hour of the ox, the middle of the night. The courtesan languidly looks for her slippers and she prepares to go to the toilet, a length of paper in hand, after the clients have gone to sleep. Ushinokoku is the hour of the ox, about 2 a.m. It is deep in the night. The woman in the print has finished her work and is in her night clothes. The nape of her neck and her left leg protrude from the robe. She appears exhausted, poor thing, and her hair hangs dishevelled as her head droops. She holds some twisted paper string in her right hand, lit to light her way, and some kaishi, or toilet paper, in her left hand. She is putting on some zori sandals, the customary footwear for courtesans in the corridors of the pleasure houses of the Yoshiwara. She is elegant, but I think she looks exhausted. Tora no koku is the hour of the tiger, about 4 a.m. in the morning. It was at such an after-work hour that courtesans could talk freely, often to badmouth the guests. Two courtesans sit and chat before a hibachi, heater. They appear cold with their arms withdrawn into their kimonos. The woman to the right fans the hibachi with a folded stack of kaeshi paper. It's now unokoku, the hour of the hare, 6 in the morning. The bells have rung to announce the time, and a courtesan holds up the haori jacket of a client who has stayed the night, helping him get ready to return home. Tatsunokoku is the hour of the dragon. About 8 a.m. in the morning, two courtesans are taking to their beds at this early hour, their exhaustion signified by their dishevelled clothes and hair. It's unlikely their customers would see them in such a state at such an hour. Minokoku, hour of the snake, at 10 a.m. in the morning. An apprentice offers a cup of tea to a courtesan who has just finished bathing. Umanokoku is the hour of the horse, about 12 midday. Three courtesans prepare themselves to be presented to customers and read a letter, perhaps from an admirer. The hour of the sheep, Hijitsu no koku. 2 in the afternoon is when the courtesans again advertise their services. But in the afternoon, it's a more relaxed affair than the evening display. This is known as the hirumise afternoon display of prostitutes. At left lies a pile of bamboo divining sticks, suggesting the courtesans are visiting a fortune teller, in which case the small wrapped packages on the floor by the sticks would be offerings of money to the teller. The new courtesan in the middle appears to be explaining how palm reading works to the kamuro, the young assistant at the far right. Sarunokoku is the hour of the monkey, about 4 p.m. In the afternoon, the courtesans are splendidly prepared for the evening display, which begins around 6 p.m. Tori no koku is the hour of the rooster, about 6 in the evening. A senior prostitute is shown to her central position behind the latticework. This is when the courtesans gather behind a wooden grill, such that they are visible to the street and the potential clients passing by. Inu no koku is the hour of the dog, about 8 p.m. in the evening. A courtesan sits on a scarlet felt rug, perhaps in a harimise, that behind the latticework, where prostitutes sat on display. She writes a letter on a long scroll. Courtesans were expected to write to patrons. She bends back in a half-rising posture to whisper into the ear of a kamuro, a young girl who works as her servant. Before the courtesan sits a luxurious tobacco tray decorated with gold leaf makie. Inokoku is the hour of the boar, about 10 p.m. in the evening. At such a time, the courtesans are still entertaining their guests. The woman at the left sits erect, carrying a guest's saucer. To the right, before her is a young kamuro servant. She appears to be dozing off at such a late hour. The diagonals of the kamuro's posture and the courtesan's outstretched arm contribute to the balance in the composition. Nenokoku, the final print, is the hour of the rat, about midnight. The two women in the print are preparing for bed after finishing with the night's festivities. The courtesan at the right has changed into simple nightclothes and is tightening her obi sash with both hands. Beg your pardon, on the left. In a half-rising posture, she peers down at the woman to the right, who appears to be a young courtesan in training. She's folding up the first woman's uchikake kimono with her chin in both hands. Utamaro successfully captured the glamour of the courtesans in these works, but he didn't stop there. He also managed to give us a meticulously detailed look at daily life in a brothel. The series gave people a glimpse of the lives of courtesans, a glimpse the clients would normally never see, and surely the series satisfied the curiosity of many. Truly amazing series. You can see the Tsutaya mark above Utamaro's signature. I don't know that he would have been happy about that in each painting, suggesting that Tsutaya himself took the reins for this project. So, well done. Utamaro was not the only popular painter of bijin-ga. He shared that stage with Chobunsai Eishi. Eishi studied the style of Torii Kiyonaga, who formerly stood at the top of the bijin-ga genre. Miraculously, the Torii family still paint kabuki posters in Tokyo. Eishi became known for painting tall, alluring women. These works are from Eishi's bijin-ga series of 5 works titled 5 Annual Festivals. These works depict Children's Day, traditionally held on the 5th day of the 5th month of the lunar year, and the Chrysanthemum Festival, held on the 9th day of the 9th month. The series was published by Nishimoriya Yohachi, who brought the series and Eishi into the public eye. This is the same Yohachi who had been a bitter rival of Tsutaya since their collaborative publication of Young Women of the Pleasure District in New Year's fashion. With Eishi's fantastic tall beauties being sold by Nishimoriya, perhaps Tsutaya realized there was a demand for such works and had Utamaro paint full-body portraits of the women in his 12 Hours in Yoshiwara series. Now, Eishi was born as the first son of a direct vassal of the shogunate, so he was a very well-off samurai. His family was part of the venerated Fujiwara clan. So Eishi's, as a vassal of the shogunate, his generous stipend was 500 koku of rice. He could support 500 people with this stipend. But he left his employer, the shogun Ieharu, to pursue his art. His early works were prints, mostly bijin-ga, portraits of tall, thin, graceful beauties in the original style established by himself, akin to Torii Kiyonaga and Kitagawa Utamaro. He established his own school and was a rival to Utamaro. He was a prolific painter, and from 1801 gave up print designing to devote himself to painting. This is Tanabata, the 7th day of the 7th month, when you write up your wishes and hang them onto tall, thin bamboo trees. This one is Jinjitsu Festival, which is in the very early New Year. And this is May, so she's preparing for the Boys' Festival. The ukiyo-e industry was certainly dominated by the publishers, such as Tsutaya, but Utamaro may have felt somewhat resistant to Tsutaya unashamedly placing his own mark above that of Utamaro in the 12 Hours in Yoshiwara series. So while Utamaro had made his name with his zoomed-in Okubiye bijin-ga, he began producing bijin-ga for other publishers as well. This is one work from the 5 Shades of Ink in the Northern Quarter, a series of 5 paintings Utamaro published through Iseya Magobe. The Northern Quarter is a reference to Yoshiwara, and this series depicts 5 courtesans and geisha of different ranks. This dishevelled woman was of the lowest rank of courtesan, who displayed themselves in the back streets for all who passed by. These women were forced to endure work for clients paying by the hour, and disease was rampant. They were also known as teppo mise, or gun girls, because of the possibility that clients would be hit by sickness after visiting them. Little is known about the publisher Iseya Magobe, but he likely entered the publishing industry during the Kansei era, when Staju was still active. This same series, this is an oiran, the highest ranking courtesan. The oiran were not subject to the harimise, the display of prostitutes for selection behind a grill, that lower ranked prostitutes were, but rather were called upon for the reception of guests at tea houses and had their own kamuro attendants. This oiran is shown after having her hair washed, an event set for 1 day per month in Yoshiwara, during which the district was closed, the hair washing day. She waits for her hair to dry. She's writing a letter, likely to a male customer. Such letters were an important part of a courtesan's job to maintain relations. Kiri no musume, short-term prostitutes, was a sort of low-ranked prostitute who worked within the walls of Yoshiwara, the pleasure district. Such women lived in kiri mise, back alley tenement row houses. Kiri refers to a span of time, thus such prostitutes charge per length of time. The kiri no musume has much plainer clothes than the high-ranked oiran, reflecting her lower station, and has a younger, more naive-looking face. She crumples a letter in her hands with an expression of simple-minded ridicule. And kashi, or riverside, most likely refers to the Haguro Dobu moat running outside the main gates of Yoshiwara to keep the prostitutes in. A prostitute working there was of the lowest rank and would not have had the training and refinement of those working within the pleasure district, and served those who could not afford the fees to enter. The print bears a green cartouche. The woman stands with her shoulders rounded while cleaning her teeth with a toothpick. With shrewd eyes, she wears a shameless expression on her round, slightly double-chinned face. Her hair is somewhat out of place, with strands hanging over her face and neck. With her left hand, she holds together her black kasuri kimono, which is patterned with geometric shapes and edged with a tie-dyed red collar. Her robes are pulled back, revealing her right shoulder and breast. She carries a red and green perfume pouch with a wisteria-coloured tortoiseshell pattern outlined in yellow. A geigi, another word for geisha, was the highest ranked worker in the pleasure district. Utamaro pictures this one as immaculately groomed. She is decorated with ivy leaf patterns on her kimono and hairpins, which indicate she likely worked for a house called Tsutaya, no relation. She wears a tan gauze outer robe over a striped salmon and white undergarment with tie-dyed fabric underneath. The stripes of the middle layer can be seen through the translucent outer gauze, a magnificent work of art. Her obi sash bears a leaf pattern against a sparkling mica-dusted background. The geisha gives a coy smile and poses with her left arm raised at the elbow, pointing the index finger of her left hand, which faces palm up. Her soft, round features contrast with the sharp angles of the collars of her robes. The print bears a black cartouche to the top right there. The publisher's seal on this print has a different shape than on the others, and thus is suspected to be the last in the series. After Utamaro became an independent painter, Staju attempted to create new trends that would rival Utamaro's work. His plan hinged on his hiring of painter Eishōsai Choki and the bijin-ga Choki would create in the style of Kamigata, the area around Osaka and Kyoto. This work is part of a series that Choki painted depicting high-ranking courtesans, or tayu, from the Osaka area. This is a painting of Hanaogi Dayu, who worked at a brothel called Ogiya in Osaka's Shinmachi Higashi neighborhood. The figure's longer face, thin neck, and heavily sloping shoulders are beautifully captured in a way typical of Choki's bijin-ga. It must have been popular in Kamigata to insert combs and large hairpins in the hair like this. The hairline is depicted in great detail, and the tortoiseshell comb is even transparent, probably a testament to how faithful the image was to Choki's initial sketched design. The people of Edo were becoming more and more interested in the culture and fashions of the Kamigata area, and it seems that Staju recognized that and had Choki take the chance of painting women from that region. The lavish white mica embedded in the background seems to have been, as with the case with Utamaro's works, due to Staju's own strong preferences. Staju established himself as a publisher through bijin-ga brocade prints, and his next step was to move into the paintings of famous actors. In the beginning, he turned to the talents of a young painter by the name of Katsukawa Shunrō, a student of Katsukawa Shunshō, who specialized in actor portraits. Shunrō would use that name until he was in his mid-30s, when he took on the name that would become world-famous, Katsushika Hokusai. Eventually, Staju began commissioning works from another pupil of the Katsukawa school, Shun'ei, an artist famous for his close-up actor works. In this print by Shun'ei, we find two sumo wrestlers wearing ceremonial aprons called kesho mawashi on a background covered in black mica powder. Their names are Kajigahama and Jinmaku, and the physical characteristics of each are powerfully depicted. It's thought that this series was produced for a main tournament held in the third month of 1794, or for a special tournament held by the shogun the following month. Sumo paintings were already very popular and had the approval of the shogunate. Staju attempted to get a foothold in that genre with a luxuriously decorated series of large format or oban black mica decorated prints like this. Staju published exclusively all of the works by the famous Sharaku. Over the course of 10 months, starting in the 5th month of 1794, the 6th year of Kansei, Tōshūsai Sharaku produced more than 140 works of art before suddenly disappearing from the world, leaving no trace but the artworks he left behind. Nearly everything about Sharaku was unusual. Actor print artists usually made their subjects more beautiful, but Sharaku bucked that trend by depicting them with unrelenting realism. Also, although he was a complete unknown in the genre, he would produce as many as 28 works at a time. On top of that, all of them were given luxurious, glittering backgrounds of black mica. Here we have some of Sharaku's debut works, depicting scenes from 3 different plays. Hana Ayame Bunroku Soga, Blooming Iris Soga of the Bunroku era. This play is a kabuki adaptation of a true story of revenge, the early 18th century Kameyama Vengeance, in which the Eishi brothers Hanzo and Genzo spend 28 years to exact revenge on their father Uemon's murderer. The story enjoyed great popularity and had several theatrical adaptations. And from the play Koi Nyobo Somewaka Tazuna, the loving wife's party-coloured reigns. This is one of Sharaku's most celebrated portraits, showing Oniji in the part of the servant Edobe in mid-pose. The signature is painted by Tōshūsai Sharaku. So, this is the evil Edobe. He's confronting the good servant Ippei. Fingers are splayed in readiness for the fight. Sharaku has emphasized the full dramatic tension of the moment of a mie, a cross-eyed stage pose from the kabuki play. And an image from Katakiuchi Noriai Banashi, a medley of tales of revenge. Sharaku has depicted not only popular actors, but also people playing supporting roles. It was possible that the series was funded by people connected to the theatre scene. Each painting captures only the upper body of the actor, and Sharaku manages to skillfully capture these moments on stage with the subtlest of touches to the expression and movements of the actors. Miki no Shin here is a ronin who has fallen sick and into poverty. He is the father of two daughters, Miyagi-no and Shinobu. Sharaku depicts him in a miserable state here in the third act, in which the villains Shiga Daishichi and an accomplice murder him. Onoe Matsusuke was best known for his roles as villains, but performed in this play as the lead protagonist. One of the greatest works depicts Ichikawa Ebizo playing the role of Takemura Sadanoshin in the play Koi Nyobo Somewaka Tazuna. Now, Sadanoshin is racked by guilt by his daughter Shin becoming involved in an illicit love affair, and we see him here in the moments before suicide. We get a glimpse of the majestic dignity of Ebizo, who was known as one of the greatest kabuki actors of his time. Staju saw Sharaku as being as talented as Utamaro, and when he took the risk of publishing Sharaku's works, Staju was in his later years, he saw his business take on new life. Staju was ahead of his time, having Sharaku capture the emotions of actors on stage, depicting them with all their features and flaws. The excitement surrounding Sharaku was still building when Staju published another 38 works by the artist, 2 or 3 months after his debut. They all featured scenes of actors in plays put on in the 7th and 8th months of that same year, 1794. All Sharaku's first works were large, close-up, high-quality portraits with black mica backgrounds, while this series, known as his second period, saw his style shift towards a new phase, characterized by full-body portraits with empty backgrounds, many in the smaller hosoban format. The work here is one of 8 large-scale Orban works. It depicts Otani Oniji, the third, playing the role of the heroic Kawashima Jibugoro, and Ichikawa Omeizo playing the equally heroic Hyotaro. Large-scale works like this depicted 2 actors over luxurious mica powder backgrounds, suggesting that they, unlike the hosoban, were specially made to order. Only 2 of the hosoban works depicting nighttime scenes had black backgrounds. The other 28 had backgrounds of yellow, and all made good use of the vertical space to inject a sense of dynamism. Through this series, Staju seems to have been aiming for a new market of buyers looking for the somewhat cheaper hosoban prints, which could be combined and displayed as sets of 2 or 3 works, all while maintaining control of Sharaku's unique portrait style. Another image with a rich black mica background, and another denoting a night scene. This is a wonderful image of an announcer at the Miyakoza Theatre. His name is Shinozuka Uraemon, engrossed in his script, which represents knowledge, authority, and the spoken word. This image embodies the essence of theatre. Sharaku's third period rose with a series of works based on plays put on in the 11th and 12th months of 1795. Not even a year had passed since his first series was released. A total of 58 pieces survive, 11 of which are brocade prints called aiban, or medium-sized nishiki, and 47 are the narrow or hosoban style of nishikie. Instead of making larger Orban actor prints, perhaps Staju focused on cheaper aiban prints to get them into more hands, in the same way he did with the close-up portraits of Utamaro's first period. Sharaku's first period. Sharaku included props and stage backdrops in the yellow backgrounds of the hosoban prints of his second period, perhaps inspired by the Katsukawa school painters who stood at the forefront of actor prints. The powerful characterization previously seen in the close-up portrait seems to have faded slightly in his aiban prints, with flattering depictions captured in fewer colours. Here, Ichikawa Ebizo, the first, plays an itinerant monk who is the disguised Abe no Sadato. Abe no Sadato and his brother Muneto led the Abe clan, who resisted the central authority represented by Minamoto no Yoshi and his son Yoshiie. After their father's death, Sadato and Muneto became fugitives, determined to avenge their clan's downfall, attempting to strike back amidst the chaos of shifting loyalties. In the dramatic third act's finale, Sodehagi Saemon, who is Sadato disguised, reveals himself in a fierce reunion with his blind wife, Sodehagi, and brother Muneto, as they make their last bold effort at vengeance. Despite their determination, the Abe brothers ultimately meet a tragic end. The play mirrors the historical fall of their clan, evoking themes of loyalty, fate, and the fleeting nature of warrior honour. So there's a lot of assumed knowledge behind these prints. This is images from the same play, The Disguised Wife of Abe no Sadato. She's well disguised. She's not the most beautiful wife here. Hosoban prints that could be combined into sets with the focus of Sharaku's fourth and final period. But Staju also had Sharaku painting popular sumo works during this period. Here is one such example in which a popular wrestler known for his size, called Daidō-zan, is depicted at the age of 7, innocently holding up a gore board, immensely heavy, in one hand. The only works from Sharaku's fourth period to survive are 10 hosoban prints based on a play produced at the new year of 1795. By that point, Staju had probably realised that he was unlikely to achieve further success with actor prints, and he either stopped publishing them on his own or was forced to abandon Sharaku's realistic depictions of actors. So to conclude, Staju was a creative visionary. He helped introduce the world to artists whose names would come to dominate their field. Artists or authors like Katsukawa Bakin, Jippensha Ikku, and artists like Katsushika Hokusai. And of course, artists representing the golden era of ukiyo-e woodblock printing, Utamaro and Sharaku. Tsutaya died at the age of 48. He was an innovator in the contents business, harnessing his acumen for business to stay one step ahead of Edo's fashions. His business strategies and marketing techniques were firmly based in reality, and his business strategies may even be helpful now for those of us living in the information age under the constant barrage of new trends. So thank you so much for listening to this presentation.